Hello and a very warm welcome to another of my video podcasts. I'm Christine Webber and this is on my usual theme of positive aging, but positive aging with a difference. The difference is that I'm going to talk to you today specifically about one theme from my new book, which is a novel. It's called So Many Ways of Loving and it's out on June 17th. Now, they always say, write about what you know, don't they? And I certainly have this time, and those of you who know me well will not be surprised, I think, to learn that one of the themes of the book is about being a widow, because that's very much what I've been processing myself since my husband very sadly died in 2018. So I have written about it, and it's interesting probably that, you know, 10 years ago, I would not have been writing about this within the context of a novel. I would have probably had a contract to write a book on grief, a self-help book or something of that nature, because that was what I used to do. I wrote books for a number of publishers, including Hodder, and they were usually of a self-help variety. And I still like to write things that I hope will help people, but now I'm more interested in writing novels. I'm more interested in writing in a freer way about the sort of experiences that happen to us all as we get older. And this is just my vehicle now. So this is another of my novels for and about older people. So widowhood. Well, anybody who's suffered great loss through somebody dying probably knows that there are these stages of grief that we're supposed to all go through, and they vary slightly according to who the psychologist or whoever it is actually writing about them. But roughly, they vary, as I say. They are denial, depression, guilt, bargaining, anger, and acceptance. Now, I have certainly found, and I'm sure many of you have, that it's not as simple as that, because you don't sort of go into a period for a fortnight, say, of denial and then think, oh, I've done that now, so I expect I'm onto the depression now. It just doesn't really work like that, does it? And I don't know about you, but I've sometimes felt all of those things within the space of about half an hour. So it's a weird kind of thing. And I think that is one of the oddities about grief, that your thinking becomes very different from normal, and sometimes that's troubling, and sometimes you can even feel, am I going completely mad, or does everybody go through this? And certainly my character, who's the widow in the book, and I'm not going to tell you her name or indeed her husband's name, because I don't really want to kind of, if you want to read the book, I want you to start afresh, although you will be aware of this theme running through it. So that feeling of, is it just me or does everybody go through this, I think is quite important to explore. One of the things in the book, and certainly I kind of thought about this, was that because so often you think, oh, that feels so real, you know, that breakfast in Italy that morning, and it was so warm and so lovely, and I can picture the two of us eating pan au chocolat or whatever it is you eat in Italy, and this lovely lunchtime later, and that feels so real. And maybe the two of you working together, if you did work together, or maybe the two of you on a train going somewhere, perhaps to see family in Scotland or something, and you have these visions of your former life that seem so real. And in the book, my character thinks perhaps these people, the two of them, her and her husband, in their different stages, are still happening somehow in a parallel universe. And I've begun to think a little bit like that. Now, is it that your mind expands because the mysteries of the universe are many and we just are in tune with possible ways of trying to interpret what we don't know? Or is it really that we are guilty, if guilty is the word, of skewed thinking, and really this isn't, you know, this isn't normal thinking? Whatever it is, it feels very real at the time. Another thing, an item, I suppose, that I feel goes through the novel and is a sort of thread for me in my life, is the bed that you slept in together. That bed that was a scene of romance, companionship, passion, hopefully. And then that role of that bed changed because your partner became terminally ill, and then the role of the bed, and indeed your role, changed considerably within that context. And then you also have the afterwards thing about the bed, where you are now the single person living in that bed. And I'd like to read you a tiny bit from the novel where the bed features. She swung her legs out of the bed, then turned and smoothed out the bottom sheet before pulling up the duvet and plumping up her pillows. It was quickly done because his side no longer needed any attention. She thought nostalgically of the mornings when the bed linen would have been rumpled. Then, as she recalled his deterioration, she had a sudden vision of him towards the end of his life, almost motionless, but somehow summoning up the energy to raise the arm he could still control, and waving when she came into the room. She heard herself gasp at its reality and pain. I'm sure many of you have had a situation like that, where the bed seems to reinforce just how alone you are. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about really is about the kind of the stages of grief, and the fact that we often become rather spiky and rather angry. We don't really, I mean, we're sad, but somehow it kind of comes out in different ways. And I've got a piece from a chapter here with this same character. She's got a friend who's actually a very nice woman and really trying to help, but she's not in the mood to be helped. And I'm sure many of you will recognize that feeling. So she actually says to the woman who's trying to help her, "I don't want to be told that it all gets easier with time. I don't want it to be easier. That would seem like an insult to him. And I don't want there to be time. Time passing is one of the worst things. Every day that I live on without him creates more distance between us. I hate that. We were so rarely apart." She didn't want to be cruel to the other woman, or indeed anyone else, but what she did want was to be left alone. Unable to think of words that might bring the conversation to a close in a civilized way, she shrugged and walked away. I'm sure many of you have experienced that thing where you just know you're being difficult, really. You're being quite spiky and quite difficult, and I suppose it's because you're angry at the world that you've joined this Widowhood club, which was a club you never really wanted to join. So, in conclusion, there is a widow in the book. Her life is it develops through the book, and good things happen. And I just wanted to write about this because I do feel that it will resonate with just so many people, and that in a kind of way that maybe a self-help book doesn't, it will touch people and resonate with them. That's the hope anyway, and if you do read the book, I hope very much that you enjoy it. See you next time.